Hey, welcome to Heritage Auctions. I'm Christina Rees, and I'm here with our Senior Vice President of American Art, Aviva Lehmann. She's in from New York this week. We're here in Dallas, and we are here to talk about the American Art Sale, our signature sale, coming up on May 15th. We're going to talk about some of the highlights in that auction, as well as some things that are happening in New York the week of the auction. Is that right? Do we want to start there? All these exciting things?
Yes.
So we're debuting kind of our expanded New York galleries.
That's right.
And along with that, what's happening this week of the sale?
Oh, it's going to be very exciting week in New York. May 8th to 15th is going to be pretty much everything American art in New York City. So we're sort of flushing the format in terms of our scheduling of where we exhibit highlights from this sale.
Okay.
Whereas, of course, now we're in our Dallas headquarters, our beautiful, big, enormous Dallas headquarters. But, you know, a very important, integral portion of the American art community is in New York City. So we recently opened a beautiful expanded gallery space on the corner of 56th and Park. And we're very excited to unveil our first major American art preview in New York. So whereas normally we start with previews in Chicago and New York and end in Dallas, this time we will hold our previews in Dallas and Chicago and end in New York during American Sale Week, which also happens to coincide with the American Art Fair at the Bohemian National Hall same week. But most exciting to report is that we are actually hosting, during our American preview, the Initiatives in Arts and Cultures Symposium on American Art.
Right.
Titled Multiple Modernities.
Oh, I like that. And so who are our guests for that day?
Oh, I'm giddy thinking about it.
It's pretty great.
So, yes, and I encourage all of you to join us for this 3-day symposium in New York. But we have an all-star lineup of incredible powerhouse speakers and passionate collectors of American art, curators, scholars joining us for this 3-day event. So first, I must give enormous credit to Lisa Konigsberg, who has run this incredible event for decades. I've attended as a guest in the past, but I'm thrilled to be partnering. Heritage is partnering with Initiatives in Arts and Culture this season. The topic is American modernism. We'll talk about it. We're lucky enough to have some incredible highlights in this sale that relate to the symposium, but we are going to have Glenn Lowry, the director of MoMA New York, in attendance and speaking. We are going to have David Anfam, the great scholar of abstract expressionism, speaking. We have curators from the Brandywine Museum. We have curators from MFA Boston. We have Wanda Korn, who is sort of my idol in many ways. I've read her.
Is she at Stanford?
Yes, she is. And she's written about Grant Wood incredibly well. Exactly. She'll happen to be speaking about Mary Cassatt. I don't want to give too much away, but a little teaser. But it is going to be incredible. So we are expecting our heritage clients will be in attendance, but this will be our first inaugural sale where we are really putting ourselves on the map in New York, saying, we are here. We are leaders in American art. We hold over 150 auction records in the category. We are the only auction house to hold designated signature brick and mortar auctions twice a year during the big American sale seasons. We are the only auction house to still produce incredible scholarly catalogs of American art.
Right.
And all of this is resonating with our audience, with the American art scene, because they are seeing that the marketplace is shifting. There's always sea changes in the arena of auction and in selling art, and we're in this sort of interesting, almost watershed moment about how American art is being presented to the public through public auctions.
Right.
And Heritage Auctions is at the forefront of all of this. I mean, with our big expansion in New York, with our partnership with this symposium, we're telling people, you can't ignore us anymore. Here we are. We're not going anywhere. So we're really excited to show everybody.
I love all of that. That is exactly, first of all, it's true. And second of all, the timing is fantastic.
Yeah.
And speaking of timing, this has come in pretty recently, and it goes with our wheelhouse, but we're going to talk about the painting first and the artist as well. Tell us about this.
I have goosebumps all over my arms just even talking about this Agnes Pelton, because let me tell you, there's always, in the auction world, we live for rediscoveries.
Yes.
We live for that Indiana Jones Holy Grail moment of, are you kidding me? Is this what I think it is? So Agnes Pelton, I would say, is definitely not a household name like Georgia O'Keeffe, for instance, but she is as important in the arena of American art modernism.
And perhaps the reason she's not as well known is because we haven't known of her for as long.
Absolutely.
She's a bit of a rediscovery.
She is a rediscovery.
One of these great stories.
Absolutely. I would say since 2020, there has been sort of a renewed interest in Pelton's body of work for a number of reasons. During the pandemic, there was an incredible show at the Whitney of Agnes Pelton, a retrospective that really brought her to the forefront of everybody's mind to say, holy cow, this material is incredible and like no other artist in the world. You know, it's really hard to find American painters that do something so revolutionary that it is unrivaled by any European counterpart that was working at the same time. Agnes Pelton, Georgia O'Keeffe, these are two examples that really sort of underscore this point. So Whitney did a retrospective that was very well attended. People went nuts for her work. It went viral on social media and you know, in chat groups and in scholarship and in writing and in publications. Since then, last year in 2023, one of our competitors sold another seminal work by Agnes Pelton from the same period for $3.4 million. Because when you think about connoisseurship of any master, there are certain factors that come into play. You have to think about rarity and provenance and quality and condition. And this Agnes Pelton has all of that. So Pelton's body of work is small and rare. In the past 29 years, only 4 of her transcendental abstract compositions had ever appeared on the auction block, period.
Yeah, that's right.
I mean,
Tell us a little bit about her.
So Agnes Pelton, for a very long time, has sort of flown under the radar because there has not been a lot of scholarship about her and because you don't see a lot of her work on walls in institutions because they're so rare. So she was a woman who was born in Germany, raised in Brooklyn, spent some time out in Long Island in this fabulous studio where she started to experiment with abstraction. But then she moved out west. She moved to California. She moved out to a small city right outside of Palm Springs. And that is sort of where she went into this almost meditative state of her life, where she was a devout yoga practitioner. And for anybody, I'm a yoga practitioner. So for anybody who practices yoga, you understand this. There's this meditative relationship between your body, your soul, emotion, and nature.
And people need to understand this is a century ago.
This is a century ago. We're talking 1936.
Yeah, that's right.
It's incredible. So she moved out to California. She sort of went into this meditative state in the desert, looked up at the sky, and started to really think about all these the metaphysical relationship between the person, the individual, and the public, the earth and oneself, the sky, the water, everything came together. And she actually kept records in her incredible journals that are now in the collection of the Smithsonian, talking about all of this. I mean, she was a poet, an artist. I mean, what we found out in the past 4 days, because going back to my original point about these incredible masterworks being rediscovered, this is the last work that came in for this auction. It arrived on our loading dock on Friday from the UK, okay? This came in, we just found out about it last week. My colleague Ariana Hartsock received the email from a woman who had no idea the value of this work. She's owned this work since 2008. She bought it randomly from a collector in London in 2008 because she thought it was a pretty painting.
Wow.
So lo and behold, Ariana and I, we've worked together a long time. We sort of brainstormed on this and said, whatever we have to do, we need to get this in. This has it. But we need to research it because it almost feels too good to be true. So we brought it in, we hustled, we worked with our shipping department, we brought it in, it arrived at the loading dock on Friday, we unpacked it, we cataloged it. I'm in Dallas for 2 days. I see it in the photo studio yesterday for the first time. And I froze in my tracks. I was with our incredible cataloger, Emily Duffy, and we looked at this together, and I got weak in the knees when I saw this work. I was shaking. When I looked at it, I turned it around, it's untouched. It has Agnes Pelton's inscriptions verso in pencil on the stretcher bar. It is unlined, it is untouched, it is unrestored. It is only known by scholarship, but no one has known whether it existed today or not until it showed up.
That's right.
So Michael Kelly, who is the authority on Agnes Pelton, has been wonderful. We've been working with him, and he actually told us that he has been looking for this picture for decades.
Well, that brings me around to how good our catalogs are.
Yeah.
and how scholarly they are. There's a lot of work in these catalogs. They're tremendous resources.
Absolutely.
For collectors, for scholars, for historians.
That's right.
For curators.
That's right.
That's a specialty of ours.
It is a specialty of ours, and we build upon that with every passing season. So I would say it started about 10 years ago when we sold the King collection of early American modernism, and we spent a lot of time really taking a moment to write about every work, include incredible scholarship, have lectures, and at that time, American Fine Art magazine dubbed it the new handbook on early American modernism. And people responded to that. And at that moment, I thought, my colleagues and I said, this is a moment where scholarship is changing. A lot of scholars in the field are passing away, they're retiring. We're seeing a lot of sea changes where our competitors are not even printing catalogs. And collectors and scholars and just, regular people who love American art and want to learn about it are feeling this absence of connoisseurship in the fields, and people are gagging for it. So we said, we're an American auction house that cares about telling stories. We care about promoting anything related to American history the right way. So ever since then, we have built upon that and created these incredible scholarly handbooks, really, handbooks of American art, collector's items in themselves, where we talk about everything in ourselves. I mean, this auction has 92 lots. I think we have about 30 essays in the catalog because we take this opportunity to educate. We are partnering with our brothers and sisters in the American art scene to combine the for-profit and the not-for-profit arenas to create a true celebration of American art and heritage. And that's what we're doing.
Right. So one of the strengths of this auction has become the strength of our American art signature auctions,
Yes.
which is blue chip, golden age illustration.
Yes.
So let's talk about a couple of these pieces. Which one would you like to start with? It's kind of an embarrassment of riches, I must say.
It is an embarrassment of riches.
Okay.
Let's talk about the
I was
Leindecker
going to say, maybe the Leindecker.
Rainy Day Girl, which is another really wonderful painting to have in the sale. This one also gets you out of bed in the morning because it's no secret that we are the leaders in the field of Leindecker and in Golden Age illustration. We sold Football Hero from the same year, same Saturday Evening Post cover from 1914. I think it was 2021 that we sold it at this point. Time goes by. Mm-hmm. And we sold Football Hero for $4.1 million, which stands as a record for Leindecker. And a lot of our success with Leindecker comes down to the fact that we have promoted illustration art, not just Golden Age illustration, but pinup and sci-fi and pulp and commercial work and comic art in a major way at Heritage for decades at this point, much more than any of our competitors. And the success of our arena of illustration art goes sort of hand in hand with what we're doing with comic art, because of the leaders in comic art. I mean, we just sold a $6 million comic book last week in a record $28 million comic art sale. Mm-hmm. So what we do with illustration very much goes hand in hand. We sort of bridge the world between the comic art and classic American art. And illustration art sort of meets in the middle. And so we work with our colleagues in comic art and in fine art, in American art, to promote these works. And I think that's why we do so well with it and why we have really raised the price point for Golden Age illustration in the sale. So this little fabulous painting of a little girl under an umbrella, I love this work because, again, thinking about what these artists were doing almost ahead of their time, whereas Agnes Pelton was painting this incredible abstraction in 1936, Leindecker painted this in 1914. When you think about this iconic image of a child under an umbrella, so many images come to mind, for me at least, in the arena of pop culture and in art. So, when I see this work, I think about Banksy. I think about the Morton Salt girl that you see in the supermarket every day. Yeah. I think about Gil Elfgren, who painted variations of this with a sexier woman under the umbrella, but still. This is sort of, I wonder a lot about how many of these artists and how many of these publishers and publicists were aware of this work when they created different variations of the same subject. I mean, you've seen it on the cover of Mad Magazine even. The cover.
Oh, and countless commercials, advertisements, absolutely.
Exactly. So when I look at this work, I celebrate it in my mind, not only as an incredible Leindecker, because this little girl is gorgeous. Mm-hmm. Every aspect of this picture is perfect. From her shoes and the dog and her red dress and her curls and her gorgeous face. And just, again, what Leindecker chooses to keep in the composition and what he chooses not to. I mean, this is just all about the image. Mm-hmm. You have nowhere to look but this incredible image. I think about it not only as about an incredible work of art, but an incredible piece of Americana. When you think about its placement in our history of advertisements, commercials, movies. And this really is the tradition that has been upheld with Golden Age illustration. I mean, you see the relationship with Rockwell and Steven Spielberg. You see the relationship between Parrish and George Lucas. And here you go again, this illustrator with this clear connection to so much that we can all relate to. Mm-hmm. Love that.
So let me think. Okay, where do you want to go from there?
Well, I will mention the other Leyendecker, which again, it's sort of fun to see them together, and it shows the genius and the revolutionary viewpoints of Leyendecker, sort of ahead of his time, because this cover, the Marbles Game behind your head, also super fresh to the market. Both are super fresh to the market. So people are already excited about them and asking for condition reports. We haven't even opened bidding yet or sent our catalog to press. That's exciting. But what I love about the Leyendecker behind you is that this is not only a beautifully painted narrative that we can all relate to. We've all been on the floor playing marbles or checkers or with our friends, and our parents came over to watch what we were doing. We could all relate to that. But what's astonishing to me is that this is a work that was painted in the 1920s, and Leyendecker chose to paint a little black boy painted with a little white boy. Actually, he chose to put the black boy in the focal point of the picture. Your eye naturally starts at left and moves right in sort of a mannerist sort of a way. He did that intentionally. This is a message to the world. This is Leyendecker saying, we are all united, we are all people. It doesn't matter your color of your skin, your age, any disabilities you may have, your sexual orientation, which is such a timely subject matter. And that's what's incredible about illustration art, because the subject matter that you find in paintings like these are as timely now as they were when they were painted, in some instances, over 100 years ago.
Yes, and quintessentially American.
That's right.
That's right.
Yeah.
So I want to kind of, as we go through these, I also want to talk about the importance of the collections, a couple of the collections that are in this. So the George Sauter.
Yeah, so what we have in the sale, and we always try to present to our audience a real syllabus of American art. Everything from early colonial portraits, George, all the way up until early American modernism. Images like the Pelton and the Jared French, which we'll talk about.
Right.
But everything in between as well. So in this auction of 92 lots, we have American Impressionism, specifically Bucks County, Pennsylvania Impressionism, which is really wonderful scenes of just, artists like George Sauter and Edward Redfield. We have a beautiful Redfield in this sale as well, and these come to us from a private collection, the Nelkin Collection, which we are very excited to have. This is just a small portion of this collection from the Nelkin estate that we are handling. We're handling, I believe, over 700 lots in Asian art and decorative arts and Russian art.
It's over maybe a dozen categories.
A dozen categories, but in this American art sale itself, we have 4 works from the Nelkin Collection. And what we noticed about what they collected, you'll see others from this collection in our forthcoming American Art Showcase auction online. So you will see more at different price points. Really beautiful, but at different price points. But in this auction, we have the George Sauter, the Redfield, a beautiful Edward Podhest seascape, and a Rockwell, believe it or not, which is sort of a little bit different. But what we noticed about the Nelkin Collection is that what resonated with them is the American landscape. So they collected just really beautiful depictions of the American landscape, often in winter like this, that sort of show various artists' interpretations of light and shadow and snow and quietude and figures within a landscape, whether you can see them or not. So in the Redfields, it's a classic depiction in Bucks County of a snow-covered landscape, certain figures in the forefront of the scene, smoke coming out of the scenes in the background. Often he'll include a sled in the scene. Really beautiful narrative of figures engaged in the landscape. But what you have with this George Sauter, which I love, is Sauter was great at depicting a scene that has a narrative that is devoid of figures. You know they're there, they're in the house, But what he wanted to portray was quietude, that feeling at night where everyone's tucked up into bed and all is still and all is good.
Yes, very peaceful. Not at all sinister. It's
not at all sinister.
It's very
That's right.
personified.
This is not an Edward Hopper, right? You know, it's again showing different artists that choose to show an image devoid of figures but carry different meanings and
Definitely
messages.
want to go to that house.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
I want to be tucked away upstairs with that one light downstairs. It's incredible. And this is a work with an estimate of $60,000 to $80,000. And I'm mentioning that for a reason, because we feel very strongly about offering masterworks at every price point in our American art sales. So you will find incredible material in this auction with estimates of $10,000 to $15,000 and all the way up into the six and maybe seven-figure range. Mm-hmm. So I want our clients to feel, I don't want anybody to ever feel intimidated that they can't get in at any level that works for them. I want more collectors to come into the arena of building beautiful collections of American art that do not have to only include 6 and 7 and 8-figure works. People can build incredible, beautiful, and important collections with material under $50,000 or under $100,000. And that's what you'll see in this catalog.
Right. There's a collection that we're calling a distinguished academic woman. And a couple of these pieces here are from that.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about that.
So what I love about this collection from this prestigious academic woman who wishes to remain anonymous, I've known this woman for decades. She's a former curator with incredible eye and incredible knowledge. And what struck me about her collection over the years, I've sold her some of the works in the sale, and now I'm very lucky, I feel honored to be able to work with her on selling some of these material. But what this woman and her husband have done over the past 40 years or so is collect anything, mostly American, a little European, some great pinups that are in our illustration sale, but anything related to the figure of the woman. So this is a curator who could have collected anything. You know, she has put together incredible shows on artists outside of what she collected. You know, this is a woman who could have focused on modernism or European masters, but she saw something here. She said, there's something really interesting and compelling about various artists' interpretations of the woman form, of feminism, in the context of various paintings. So what we have in this collection are about 10 works from all different arenas of American art. So we have everything from, on this wall, we've got this incredible Huey Lee Smith, wonderful Black artist that is really having a moment these days. We've sold a few incredible works over the past few years. I know we've discussed them in the past. This is a really, really beautiful one that, again, Huey Lee Smith is known for surrealism, mystery. You're never quite sure what is going on.
Very sort of dreamlike quality.
Dreamlike quality. The figures that he depicts are often very ambiguous. Often you're not even 100% sure of their race or their ethnicity, or whether they are fantastical figures or real figures. He creates these sort of dreamlike experiences that allow the viewer to create their own narrative. He left these open for people to create their own vision of this work, which is fabulous. So we're very excited to have the Huey Lee Smith. What we also have from this wonderful collection are great modernist works by Reginald Marsh. An incredible tempera by Reginald Marsh from the 40s of a woman walking past a window. And what I love about this work is, number one, Marsh's tempera medium is unmatched. He's a master of tempera, much like Jared French, which is also a tempera work in the sale.
That is gorgeous.
Sort of, actually, those were painted in similar decade, but I love how they show very different subject matter. But, you know, Marsh had a studio near Union Square and would just sort of walk around painting these classic scenes of New York that only a New Yorker walking the streets of New York can really experience, but it really represents New York City in every iteration. So even though this scene is confined to this fabulous woman in this gorgeous outfit walking past this mannequin that almost looks like another figure. The mannequin looks as alive as the figure passing by. But they have this quick moment, it's like a film still of her passing this window, having this moment and engaging with fashion. And even though the scene is reduced to the window and this woman, it still has this bustling sense of the city around that window outside the four corners of the work, because Everybody in New York, when you're walking the streets, you're part of this mosaic of this hustle and bustle, but you also have your own personal moment. When you're in New York, that's you. It's your own moment. It's your New York. And that's what Reginald Marsh captures in this work, which I think is wonderful.
Is the Dean Cornwell from her collection as well?
Yes, it is. That incredible, we love that. You and I have talked about.
Yeah, I'm very drawn to that work.
I am too, The Den of Iniquity. When I saw it in this woman's dining room, when I first went into her house, I also got a little weak in the knees, and I said to her, please let me sell this for you.
Okay.
So I'm thrilled that this is one of the ones she let us sell in this sale. It is an incredible Dean Cornwell that is just sensory overload when you look at this painting. I mean, this to me is one of the best Dean Cornwells to ever come to market.
Well, that's a little bit about provenance right there, but we should maybe talk about the provenance of this guy behind you.
Good old George.
Yeah.
Yes, we love Rembrandt Peale at Heritage. Listen, this is not our first rodeo with the great Rembrandt Peale.
Okay.
We have been lucky enough to sell 2 incredible examples of Rembrandt Peale's portraits of Washington. We actually hold the auction record for a portal portrait of Washington. We sold one in 2013 for over $600,000, which stands still today as the auction record for a Rembrandt Peale portal portrait. Now, what we need to remember, and this is sort of interesting, is that Rembrandt Peale almost felt competitive with his father, Charles Willson Peale,
Right.
and other artists of the day like Thomas Sully and Gilbert Stuart, who all painted these iconic images of George Washington from life.
But he wanted to set the standard.
He wanted to set the standard, exactly. And what he did, the original, I believe, is in the Library of Congress, the first one he painted. But he was so happy, Rembrandt Peale was so pleased with this interpretation that he created about 80 replicas of his own work throughout the rest of his career until he died. So the original was created decades before this one. This work is from the 1850s, I believe 1856 or 1857. And it's fabulous. I mean, the 2 other portal portraits that we sold, the first one in 2013, the second more recently, just a few years ago for over $500,000, I think $591, were both also later examples, later replicas done by Rembrandt Peale for the purpose of publicizing this iconic image.
And disseminating his standard.
That's exactly right, for
Right.
disseminating a standard. So this one comes to us from an incredible collector of Americana, wonderful man, who bought this work about 11 years ago at a public auction. But the history before that is rather interesting as well, because the Romanoff family, the illustrious Romanoff family, owned this work as well. And now you might say, how does the Romanoff, this Russian family, have anything to do with American art?
Right, I would like to know.
Well, as luck would have it, another kismet moment here. We have 2 works in this sale from 2 different sellers of material that was owned by the Romanoff family. We have this Rembrandt Peale, and we have this incredible St. Gaudens sculpture that it was consigned by the Romanoff estate. So that's in the sale as well. I sort of love that they're reunited. It's sort of like they're having a little family reunion in the sale. But provenance is important. Provenance speaks to where this painting lived and what it has seen, because I may sound a little spiritual and corny here. I'm spiriting Agnes Pelton right now. I'm channeling her. But I do believe that these paintings collect the energy of the owners that lived with them for all the years and decades that have passed. And so I love seeing a painting like this to say, the fact that the Romanoffs, who were incredible patrons of the arts, felt it important to have and own a Rembrandt Peale portrait, an American president, says a lot to me about how global collectors appreciate American art.
So tell us about this Jared French, since you brought it up a little
Love
bit.
this Jared
but it's very
French.
beautiful. I'd like to hear about it.
Oh gosh, I really needed to have this in the sale so badly that I hand carried it from New York on Monday to include it in the sale. So the Agnes Pelton and the Jared French were the last 2, the stragglers that made the rounds for this auction, but they are so important to represent American modernism in this auction. So it is no secret that we are big champions of magic realism at Heritage.
That's right.
We hold the auction record for George Tucker. But what we have here is a work by Jared French, another member of this magic realist group. The 3 big realists are Paul Cadmus, Jared French, and George Tucker.
That's right.
So what we have here is this incredible, it blows me away. You know, it's tiny but mighty. This is a fabulous 1930s work by Jared French titled study for Petronius and the Golden Ass. And it's so Jared French to take this sort of Bruegel-esque old master's subject and make it so over the top, homoerotic, sensory overload, technical skill, home run, American scene.
What year is this, probably?
This is from the 30s.
Okay.
And what we have here, again, you know, Jared French, compared to Tooker and Cadmus, is probably the most mysterious of the three. You don't see his work come up as often, but he's just as important, and he revered Paul Cadmus. They were very close. In fact, there's a figure on the right side of the work. There's a figure in blue right along the right edge holding a ribbon. That's Paul Cadmus.
Oh, wow.
So when you look at this work, there's so much to see, and your eye moves all over the place. It's just a celebration of texture and color and narrative and fantasy.
It's exquisite.
It's
an
exquisite.
exquisite painting.
It's exquisite. I mean, even I had this in my house overnight because I picked it up to bring it, and my husband said, "This is incredible. I don't know who this is or what it's worth, but this is incredible."
Oh.
And that always is a litmus test to me, where someone who's not a specialist of American art can see something and appreciate it as a masterwork.
Mm-hmm.
So we felt it very important to include a magic realist in this sale. We're thrilled to have it. It is a tempera on paper. And the estimate is $30,000 to $50,000. Yeah.
So tell us about this.
You cannot have an American art sale without some fabulous Western as well.
That's
and
right.
So what's sort of fun is that we have these two John Clymers, also Saturday Evening Post covers. Clymer is sort of an artist who straddles the worlds of illustration and Western.
That's right.
So these works will appeal not only to illustration collectors, but to Western collectors as well. And Heritage being Texas-based, we have a tremendous following for Western art. We have a tremendous following for Texas art. We're hosting a Texas Art Symposium in June as well to go along with what we're doing with scholarship and education. But what I love about these works is, John Clymer is a genius. He has these gorgeous depictions of not only the figures and the narrative, but he paints a landscape so beautiful.
Yes.
You know, he captures in both of these works these hazy, atmospheric, expansive views of the American West. But he starts the composition up close on the picture plane. So you can appreciate in these images every blade of grass, the horses, the hazy distance of the Western mountains, the dogs, the father and son, that feeling of childhood, the fantasy of childhood. Again, the choose your own adventure feeling of when you look at these works, you can relate them to your own personal life. So we're very excited to have these in the auction as well. And they sort of round out our offerings of everything from 19th century up until today.
That's right. It's a lot. It's a lot to that. You know, just about 90 lots encompasses a massive and important history.
Yeah, we pack a big punch.
Yes, we do. All right, so that is it for us today, and take a look at our website for this particular sale because it'll give you the details on what's happening in New York.
That's right.
That very exciting week.
That's right. Thank you. See you soon.